Thank you very much. Of course, it's quite a lot of fun. पहले normal इंसान करते थे invite, अब AI bot करता है, तो ये अब तरक्की हम देख रहे हैं और यहाँ change, तब्दीली हम देख रहे हैं of one sort or the other. Welcome to this session. I'm very happy that we have so many people here today. The conversation we are going to have today is with the acclaimed artist Rashid Rana. He is one of the most celebrated artists of his generation here, so we are very happy that he's here. With being an academic, I'm also the founder and director of ThinkFest, which is an academic literary festival which happens every January. So it will happen on the 23rd to the 25th of January 2026 at the Alhambra. And we have partnered with the SOT to bring in two panels. One is today and the other is tomorrow on AI and the post-truth society. So we're very happy with this collaboration and I hope all of you will also attend this session tomorrow. Let me just quickly introduce and say just a few lines about Rashid, of course trying to encompass an artist in any case, and especially Rashid Rana is very hard in written form, but I shall try to say a few lines about him. Rashid is one of the preeminent artists of his generation and has emerged as the maker of an entirely new form of art from Pakistan at the start of this century. Notable for his ideas, imagery, and pictorial work, Rashid has exhibited extensively in galleries and museums all around the globe. His works are in various significant public and private collections, including the British Museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, the Fukuoka Museum of Art in Japan, and the Saatchi Collection in London. Rashid is the recipient of the prestigious Game Changer Asia Art Award, and he's also been granted by the President of Pakistan the Sitara-e-Imtiaz. Primarily known for his art practice, Rashid occupies multiple simultaneous profiles. He mediates between being an artist, curator, and educator. His interest is in transdisciplinary collaboration and pushing boundaries by creating new possibilities made him the ideal candidate to be recently appointed as the chairholder for the UNESCO Chair on Inclusion Through Art at the Beacon House National University. He's also the founding faculty member and currently the Dean of the School of Visual Art and Design at the Beacon House National University. And the use of new media amongst the new generation of Pakistani artists is largely a legacy of Rashid and his continuing work. So thank you, Rashid, so much for this conversation that we're going to have. As we were planning the conversation this afternoon, I've asked Rashid to actually talk to you in three different parts so that we can kind of understand his journey from, as the title says, from analog to digital, how he began, how he transformed, and where he is now and where he is going. Because these are very important elements to understand the creative process of an artist. So we will talk about those things in three different bits this afternoon. But before I invite Rashid up, and before we begin with the first part, may I request a video to be played just to give an overview of what Rashid has done and his practice.
Volt Art Projects, Al Sarkal Avenue, Dubai, where you're going to see two works of mine on display, Desperately Seeking Paradise and It Lies Beyond. It Lies Beyond was first created last year for Karachi Biennale, and Desperately Seeking Paradise is a work from 2008. But for this particular show, we thought these two works together can create a new dialogue and a new setting and a new context. When you first come across this work called Desperately Seeking Paradise, the one behind me, you first see a reflective surface which is reflecting its surroundings, and it's rather could be minimalist sculpture from 1960s America. But when you start walking around it, so then you start seeing a representational image. You see a familiar or recognizable image. The illusion gets completed over here when you're standing right in front of this corner over here. where you see, so then suddenly it starts looking like a chunk of a high-rise building brought into the gallery space, which is further reflecting its surrounding buildings. So it can be an imaginary city with high-rise buildings representing, the developed city or capitalist order. Only when you get more intrigued and you come close to it, then you see, in contrast to the verticality and the vertical high-rise buildings, you see low-rise structures. These are a horizontal landscape. These are facades of houses in Lahore, which are, low-rise, which is 1 or 2 stories. So in that sense, the work brings together many concerns that I have dealt with in the past within my practice. They all come to converge and come together in this piece from 2008, where you would experience duality in terms of the formal concerns, abstraction versus representation, two-dimensional versus three-dimensional, but also duality in the sense of the horizontal and the verticality of the cityscapes, representing the sheer economic unevenness that exists in the world, which to me is the main cause of the conflict. So the work, in a way, in a subtle way, references 9/11 and the probable cause of the incident or similar conflicts is not the paradise that we seek in afterlife, is the paradise that we all seek within our lifetime. This work, it lies beyond. I first created for Karachi Biennale last year. However, it has its roots in a work called Offshore Accounts that I first produced in 2006. And this serene-looking seascape actually comprises of thousands of, about 90,000 images of trash shot at a landfill site in Lahore over the years. Within this matrix of garbage, you also find paintings and illustrations of sailing ships from 1600 to 1900, and then placed like as if these images are stuck within the matrix of garbage. These images of sailing ships reference the materialistic inquiry that began with the Renaissance and led to sea trade and exploration of other worlds, and eventually leading to colonization and industrial revolution, and subsequently consumerism and its aftermath that you see in the form of images of trash symbolizing the carbon footprint of humans on this planet, often resulting in calamities such as these recent flood in Pakistan. That those images you will see as a streak running throughout this. If you can notice this, within this seascape. So basically, it is a story that begins with water and ends with water. Apart from the immersive experience that you get in this work because of its sheer scale, there is an added element of augmented reality that you can experience if you have an AR app on your phone. You can see these images through your phone, and these static images become animated. See this behind my phone, you will see the static image and its animated version over here.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah. May I now request Rashid to please come and join us on stage. So Rashid, since we said we'll do it in 3 parts, so my first part question to you is that throughout your artistic career, you have dealt with several different mediums. You have done painting, you have done stainless steel sculptures, you have done photographic mosaics, and lots of other things. Could you speak a little bit about your artistic journey, especially from moving from painting to digital mediums?
Thank you, Yaqoob, for your kind words, and thank you, everyone. Welcome here, and thank you for your appreciation. But I have to say, wait till you see our students' work next door and our graduates' work from BNU. They're far ahead. I was able to only make a few contributions 2 decades ago. And the shifts that you spoke about, Yaqoob, the very dramatic shifts that my practice has taken over the years, I hadn't predicted it. If I go back in time, I mean, these has been pleasant surprises for me as well. As an artist, that's what you do. You get to know yourself through your productions. And the shifts that we're talking about, I think the one thing can explain it very well. Next. I think we'll have to do without clicker. It isn't working. Next. 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 No, the previous one. Previous one. Previous one. So I belong to the generation that came before the millennials. I'm sure there are lots of millennials and Gen Zs in this audience. Very few from my generation called Gen X, Generation X, between the ages of 45 and 60. They have seen more changes and developments in their lifetime than any other generation previously. So the changes that we have seen, our productions and our creative creations are analogous to those changes. You just have to, I didn't have to do anything extra, I just had to remain open to those possibilities. Next. I'm sure those who belong to my generation remember the days when they used to write on the notebook or used to write letters. And within my lifetime, within our lifetime, we have gone through the changes. Next. Sticky notes. I'm not sure if our life has become any easier with this age of digital age and age of information and communication. But yeah, these are just an example of how Yaqoob, you're trying to read my notes, my engagements. I've deliberately made it blurred. Next slide. So this is my studio shot back in the early 2000s. And because I was trained as a painter at NCA many years back. Next. And a few years later, a complete shift had taken place. Not that paint is not relevant, but in my case, next. The journey from painting to digital media had begun for a variety of reasons. Next. One of the reasons, as I mentioned, I remained open to these possibilities. The changes that were happening in my surroundings. Imagine those who experienced VHS tapes and VCR. It came and disappeared within a decade, as if it never existed, and it was so much part of our lives back then. So the changes have taken place, and we just have to remain open to those possibilities as to how the tools of new media can be a tool for your creative expression, just the way we use all these tools in our lives, in each and every aspect of our life. Next. So within my practice, there's a journey from grid to matrix to pixel. I wouldn't go into too many technical details and things that art community would understand more because we have very little window of time. In fact, I will be rushing through lots of images just to give you a sense of how the visual transitions took place. And not so much explanation of each work, because each work comes with lots of context and explanations that we will keep for another time. Next. This is, for instance, this work may be as big as what you're looking at, pretty life size. During my college days, graduate school days, when I was looking at the idea of barcode and horizontally and vertically juxtaposing it to create the depth within the very two-dimensionality. Next. And a transition further, various iterations of my fascination with the aesthetics of grid. Next. More painterly version. Next. So there's a hidden grid present and a surface tension present in this image, painted one, but at this point, a shift had taken place within my approach and thinking. I was no longer happy having the audience of 5 people appreciating my work, the kind of minimalist and abstract work I was producing. I became interested in the idea of reaching out to wider audience. and having a mass appeal for my work. So for that, I started looking at the popular culture and broad visual culture as a potent subject matter for my practice. Next. And then a few years later, with the exposure to digital tools, I am looking at, the notion of matrix and grid, but translated more into pixels or fragments. Next. This is a detail from a work. Next. You will see this complete work in a bit. Next. This is still a detail. I'll show you later on. I'm just quickly visually showing you the transition my practice has been through in the first decade of the century. Next. Literally, the canvas, texture of canvas is printed onto the canvas. Next, you'll see a close-up detail. Next. Next. So, even before the arrival of or popularity of Google and this immense access we have to Web3 and web and internet images, and now most recently social media and flux of images in all our lives. Very early on in the late 90s and early 2000s, I was very much, taking influence from this, age of images, closely linked with the age of information. However, there is a simultaneity going on as well, because we live 17, 19, and 21st centuries all at the same time. Parallel to that, what was happening on the streets of Lahore. Next. These living museums. I found them more fascinating than visiting museums abroad, because in one poster seller shop, this is Neela Gumbad, Lahore, those who know the geography of Lahore, you would see Impressionism, Renaissance, Disney World, Bollywood, Hollywood, all in one place. And that started really inspiring me that this could be a very valuable content to create further images. These were early days. Now we all know and we all use the word curation at ease, though the term comes from the art world, because there's such information, there's such data in the form of images that exist. There's a constant need for it to be sorted, compiled, and arranged, and reconfigured or curated. And that's what most of the Gen Zs are doing in their presence on social media. So I felt this need much early on. I felt that as a painter, I don't have to seek necessarily absolute originality. I don't have to create images from scratch. I can be editor of images. I can take existing images or short images and reconfigure them in such a way that they create new meaning and new associations. Next. So I let go this obsession which artists very much have and used to have with such intensity a couple of decades ago, that their work has to be original. But it's only a romantic idea, because there's no such thing as absolute originality in my view. Next. Next. So in a way, perhaps when I let go that fear, I produced perhaps relatively more original works of mine. There was a complete revelation, I would say, that the freedom that I felt by letting go that fear of not having to produce original images. So I was borrowing images from popular culture, broad visual culture, textbooks, art history books, or cinema posters. And these are some of the works. As I mentioned, we won't be able to go into details of each work. Next. But while making these paintings with the help of a team, I used to use Photoshop. These were early days of my exposure to digital technologies. But I thought it could only be used as a preparatory tool. Like, and I can treat images and take a printout, and then using that as a reference, paint then on a large scale. But very soon I realized that I can minus the process of paint, and what you prepare through digital means can be a meaningful content in itself. And that was another major shift. Next. So my practice in that sense became idea-driven. So the idea had to lead the way. For instance, I was asked to be part of an exhibition called Around Miniatures. This was the time when, in the late 90s and early 2000s, this is 2002 by the way, the work that I'm going to show. This exhibition I'm mentioning about is also, it also took place in 2002. So I was asked to be part of an exhibition called Around Miniature, whereas I had conceptual opposition to this trend, often known as neo-miniature, when artists from Pakistan started seeing a potential in the historical Mughal miniature painting and Persian miniature painting as a source of inspiration and approach it in a variety of ways, which is totally fine, which is valid, and perhaps is the most significant trend and movement to have emerged from Pakistan. But it created a very narrow space for the others, because within the country and outside the country, everyone felt that miniature painting was well received, because it's easier to relate to your past, especially the people outside Pakistan. They have to make less effort. They can see us as snake charmers or miniature painters or carpet weavers only. So I conceptually opposed to that. So I wanted to create a work which is not a celebration necessarily of the neo-miniature. So I came up with this idea. Next. I created a Mughal emperor's portrait, so that this is expected of me as an artist from Pakistan. Fine, that's what you like to see. Me producing, I will produce that. But when you come close, I'm going to show you something else. Next. Am I audible properly, or is this too much echo? There's an echo. Can you lower down the volume, please? So I took the subversive route, and those who know my practice over the years, subversion is perhaps my middle name. So I took photographs of the billboards in Lahore and miniaturized them to compose this portrait. And back then it sounded like I used technology. I only used Photoshop, and so this was debated whether it's work of art, because haath ka kaam nahi hai. So what we call haath ka kaam and craft, that's also very relative, because there's going to be an age coming up very soon, those who use AI, that automation is going to be of another level. Already people use prompts. Prompt engineering is the term that they use, that they give specific verbal instructions, textual information to the AI to produce something. हम तो वैसे भी जो majority Muslim community believe in kun fayakun, ho ja and ho gaya. That's the ultimate form of automation. So humanity is inching towards that kind of automation. So all I'm trying to say that what I produced back then sounded like very high tech, but it sounds very archaic and manual labor at this point, because this period of keyboard and mouse, I don't think it's going to last very long. In the larger scheme of things, when we see things in retrospect, humanity will see things in retrospect. The typing will be a very short-lived phenomena. Next. So this is the close-up detail. So I like the fact that the way you appreciate it, because that part people found seductive, that the illusion of it. So I got encouraged by that. I thought, fine, if that's what it brings the mass appeal, I will use that strategy and use it as a conceptual and formal device to create more images and document more contradictions. So in doing so, I think आवाज़ अभी भी ज़रा ऊंची है मेरे ख्याल से. So I have very diverse interests in terms of subject matter, and so I love the idea that this technique of micro-macro can hold all my interest in terms of subject matter and not confuse the audience either. And they find it fascinating because of the illusion part of it. But I hope if there's any deeper content, it unfolds later on, because the disparity between the micro and macro image is where the content lies. So audience gets the freedom to knit their own narrative between the two polarities, and that's something worked in many works to follow. And so this is, I'm quoting Woody Allen from his film Deconstructing Harry. tradition is an illusion of permanence. We often, in the global south, especially subcontinent, we get deceived by this, the idea of permanence. Tradition be the idea of permanence, but you have to create your own traditions. Next. So I use this conceptual and formal device as a means of exposing presumed absolutes. Next. 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 You've seen this work. Next. It's called Red Carpet. Next. Video play kar do. These are thousands of images shot in a slaughterhouse in Lahore. The work has roots in many ideas, my childhood experiences. And there are many other contexts to this work. For instance, I had this idea in my head to create a piece like this for a long time. But when the attack on Benazir's first convoy, when she came back to Pakistan and left 150 people dying, is the time when I created that work. So this is another work, an appropriation by famous artist Khalid Iqbal's work, which I reconstructed with the images of traffic in Lahore. Next. Next. These are images of roads on Lahore. Next. Next. Umatidia series. Umatidia is the technical name of the scientific name of the eye of the fly, which consists of thousands of eyes. So I thought it's a great metaphor for the idea of stardom. So these works were produced back in 2004, a long time ago, 21 years ago. And these are the men on the streets of Lahore. Next. 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 So they have a particular gaze with which they look at their heroes, and heroes have a gaze with which they look at the audience. And we become the third participant in that as a viewer, examining and negotiating with both the gazes. So, and also idea deals with, in a simplest way, deals with the complexity of borders. Next. Those who have, this is just a reference image, not my work, but inspired some of the pieces I made. How many of you remember CDs ka zamana, DVDs? Some people are reluctant to expose their age. Next. Play the video, please. Video play kar. This work is called All Eyes Skywards during the annual parade, which depicts a very passionate looking crowd, all diagonally looking upward in a very intense way. And the image that you see is comprises lots of film stills from major films of Bollywood, from Mera Naam Hai Joker se leke, coming up all the way to Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham. So, but images you see are not necessarily only images of the stars, but even banal images such as seascape from film Rangila. And that's the kind of passion we Pakistani bring to Indian cinema, that we can recognize even banal scenes from this film still. So this is in direct contradiction with the animosity that the two countries have. So the nationalism that we feel is also real, because even the most real liberal people would be would be cheering for the Pakistani cricket team. I do, when they were playing India, but then we have a love for Indian cinema as well. So the idea of borders and nationalism is not that straightforward, it's more complex. And that is true for many other things that I realized after making this work, that oftentimes there are always either two sides or multiple sides. There are multiple truths most of the time pertaining to any idea. But we conveniently dig down and pull one truth that we like in that given moment and present it as our belief system. So this series made me realize that I have my own contradictions as well. So rather than taking a a patronizing approach that promoting certain idea, fixed idea as my belief, as thematics for my work, I started documenting contradictions within myself and outside of me, and that became the kind of norm to expose these presumed absolutes. Next. So I think we are very short of time, and I'm just now going to quickly just take you through images, and I think that's all the time we have so that we can move to the last bit of few questions. Next, 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 next. So duality that I'm interested in also manifested in mirror images, doubles, and symmetry. This is not my work, this is just a reference. Next, next. To these early grid paintings, next, which further became representational, not abstract, where I started creating abstract images with the help of readable, so the duality existed in that form as well. Next, next. This work is called Twins for obvious reference to 9/11. Next. And these are the houses of Lahore from Pakistan. Next. 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 I created these works when Pakistan and India tested their nuclear capability, and people like me were, I mean, some people took very obvious route. Liberal view is that it's destructive, and of course it is. But then you call, given this argument of the deterrence. So that's the kind of paradoxes that this work represents. Next. How many of you have been to NCA Trinale? Okay, so this work is on display. It's larger version in one of the corridors of NCA. And I think tomorrow is the last day of the Trinale, if you want to visit. Next. Next. There's a lot to these works in context, but I'm going to skip that. Next. These are 8,000 plus images of European history of painting. Next. Creating this illusion of bookshelf. Next. But it basically depicts the impossibility of translating visual and textual. Next. Next, 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 next. And I created, with this idea of mirror images and doubles, I created few video works. By the way, images are a bit stretched. So in your head, just compress it horizontally. I'm being a perfectionist, it's bothering me. It's a video in which the both self depictions of mine kill each other. Next. 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 Again, dealing with the idea of borders, and this is a work called Peeling Point, in which the possibility of aeroplane colliding is there, but it never happens because of its obvious illusion. So we live between the constant state of fiction and reality. Next. Next. Another work for the Singapore Biennale, it's a site-specific video work, which is called Departure Lounge, where you feel entrapped in the idea of time. Next. So the illusion is created such that you feel entrapped. Next. This work gave me flying phobia, by the way. Next. So I did make some video works as well. Wherever I felt that my ideas require a certain medium or format, I made those shifts. So this is what I was referring to when I said I remain open to possibilities, and I didn't have to do anything special. But because of my fascination with two-dimensionality and being originally a painter and who create two-dimensional images which can be hung onto the wall, I could never deeply develop a taste for video art making, time-based media. I always wanted to see all the time captured in one static image. So I came up with this work called Dislocation Series. Next. Video play kar de. How many of you familiar with Safamwala Chowk in Temple Road? Okay, that's a good number. So this is you can recognize the building. A camera was fixed with the help of a team, and every second for 24 hours a photograph was taken. So it literally recorded 24 hours in the clapping se mera time kam ho jana hai. Thank you. So next. Yeah, so I wanted to create an illusion of a frozen in time image, जैसे CPI रंग के cards होते हैं ना पुराने ज़माने के postcards. So as if this location is fossilite and frozen in time, and that's what is believed by the perhaps developed world, that we are caught in a fixed in a fixed time. But when you come close next, you see that these places which you feel stuck in, frozen in time, are actually living and breathing in their own way. Next, 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 next. This is a fairly recent work, but with the same idea, flattening of time. So what I'm doing in these two works, I'm taking the multiplicity of fragmentation of time and flattening it onto one surface. This work is a little bit more immersive. These are 2 hours in the life of Gaza. गजा पे एक रात में 1-2 घंटे का पीरियड है जहाँ पे कैमरा CCTV कैमरा फुटेज से रिकॉर्ड हुआ स्ट्राइक सारी, and I took fragments on regular intervals of time and created this flattened version, that horrific experience in one static image. Of course, I mean, one cannot come even close to what we have seen on social media. So I wasn't even, no one can try to represent and depict what has happened there. So, but this is another way of the images that we are desensitized to. You approach it differently and think about the same issue from another perspective. Next, 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 next. So images are also data in a way. Next. I'm being told that there's only 5 minutes, so we have more than half the presentation ready. So I just showed a European painting, and this is my portrait in a place called Kachra Kundi outside Karachi, where all you see heaps and heaps of garbage miles away, and an image look as poetic, subversively, ironically. So subversion is taking place in another way over here, not in micro, macro. Next, next, next. This is Pollock, not me, Jackson Pollock, American painter from 50s and 60s. Next, 50s mostly. And I created a similar kind of aesthetics of abstraction with readable imagery of garbage stitched together to create impossible view of a landscape of garbage. Next. Next. I'll skip. This is a stills from video, but I can't speak about it. It calls Beauty Lies. Next. And then I created, with the help of 90,000 of images of trash. Let's save time, everyone. This is Karachi, NED University, Karachi. The video you saw was Dubai, but this is Pakistan. It was shown in Karachi. So 90,000 images of trash collected over the period of 10, 12 years come together to create the illusion of seascape. But as I explained in the video, it talks about more complexity as to how historically the colonization, industrial revolution, consumerism, and the environmental disasters, they all how somehow connected. So art, this is what art can do. So when we talk about real life issues, they sound little boring because they become slogans. And we lose interest in those and lose meaning because we're not sensitized anymore to those ideas. However, when you talk about those issues with the language of art, because of the complexity of subject matter that it overlaps and intersects, and because of the inherent poetics present in the images and the artwork, it takes on new meaning. So that's the power of art. Next. Next, 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 next. Science measures and policies regulate, arts employ poetics, as I mentioned earlier before. Next. Next. Those who like to be part of my artwork, they can still, it's an ongoing series called Together Alone. And that's how we are in the social media world. So this is made with these mirror selfies that people contributed and donated for a series of this work. Next. 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 This is not my work, but just to speak about how the simultaneity that we experience in global south, in the subcontinent, is very different than the experience of the global north. We live 17th, 19th, and 21st century all at the same time, and we constantly shifting gears to navigate through this different sense of time. So sense of time is not linear, and that's what you will see in many of my works. And also another manifestation of simultaneity is locality. Next. This is a work of an artist named Andreas Gursky, German artist. He depicted Amazon warehouse. And I tried to add another layer to it. I created a similar image. Next. With the help of AI, initial source was created, and then, of course, there's more to it. So it also creates an exploding image of the Amazon warehouse. But up close, these are images of objects. Next. These are images of objects that my team collected in given 2 days methodically all over Lahore, without staging them, without anything orchestration of any kind. They just simply documented whatever was found in the outdoor space of Lahore in terms of objects and juxtaposing it with the whole idea of Amazon, because we live both realities at the same time. Next. And it also becomes an archive of a time, later on perhaps. It's no longer going to be just my work, but may serve as an archive of a time through these images. Next. So I think we're running out of time. I just showed you only one facet of my practice, which employs this micro and macro images to create photo mosaics. But there's a whole range of works and mediums and formats that I've used that Yaqoob mentioned in his intro that I'm afraid we won't be able to show, but I can just in 2 minutes quickly run through those images perhaps. Next. हम कमरन बस images चलाते रहें आहिस्ता आहिस्ता. Next. This is not my work. This is the work I created with the help of these 2 images. Next. This is my work. So I changed the strategy. Rather than using thousands and thousands of images, I took one image from another time, another place, cut it into fragments, reassemble it to evoke the sensibility of another image from another time, another place. And it's called transliteration series. Next. Photo sculptures. Next. Stop. I created within the gallery space, I created another gallery imitating a room from Tate Modern Museum as a subject matter, because art is a condition of history. Art is not forever. Art with a capital A, by the way. Creative production has always been there and will always be there. This is depicting art in itself becoming a subject matter. Next. This is all photographically created fake space. It's not real. Next. Some of you must have seen this work in Liberty Market 12 years ago when the audience from Venice and Lahore connected for 6 months. Next. I collaborated with a biologist to use DNA, living, non-living DNA, which is embedded in this work. Next. I collaborated with the choreographer in Royal Opera House. Next. Royal Opera House, London, collaboration with Steve Reich, the legendary musician, and Wayne McGregor, the choreographer. Next. Again, my fascination with the grid and the aesthetic of grid and pixel coming together. Next. This is to do with the imagery of Syrian refugees. Next. And this you all know, I hope. But you may not recall or remember or know the title of this work, which is Wahdat al-Shahood. Isko English mein hum kahenge the unity of all that appears. And because that's what it does, it brings the diversity of Pakistan together in a harmonious way. Next. So just to sum up my one aspect of my practice, which is art making, I believe that oftentimes from the global south, the countries which are in the third world are often referred as third world, the creative practitioners in particular, but people in general, whenever they have to find a way forward, they either find refuge in the romance of the past, not knowing that they will be living in the past, or they follow into the footsteps of the developed, the global north, not realizing that you will always be behind. I believe in an approach of taking a fresh approach with past, present, and future all at your disposal, and creating new legacies and new trajectories, and meeting the developed from another place, at another place, another juncture, another intersection. So that really informs my practice, whether it's art making, or being a curator, or being an artist.
Great. Thank you so much, Rashid, for giving us this tour of how your practice has developed. I'm sure everyone here really appreciated like the depth behind it. And I must say, I'm sure there are lots of burning questions here, but it's interesting where you end up about talking about the past and the future and making your own way. You certainly have made your own way. And in bringing past to the present and then moving towards the future, you have actually forged the way and pushed boundaries. One thing, you last showed about your the pictures of the Pakistan Pavilion in Dubai, and that was an award-winning thing and a great sort of example of Pakistani art on an international scene, which was appreciated throughout the world. I want you to bring to comment a bit on that, because you've also devised a new idea. You have reimagined art as something that is beyond the normal creative form, as e-art. So can you say a few words about that? Because I think that would be, where you ended, that's a very good way of taking us to the future, which direction we must take, and new ways in which we must think about art.
Well, I have to say that it wasn't just my work. I collaborated with a few like-minded colleagues of mine, friends of mine, and came up with a term called art. That's how we pronounce it. It can be pronounced yet, but it's art. Art, a manifesto of possibilities. So basically, it's about, in a nutshell, because we don't have time, it's about identifying moments of creative expression in real life. In real life action, transactions, mediations, interventions of all kind of activities we do, we can be changing the structure of form. We may be embedding poetics in real life. So art, I'm proposing the idea that creative expression or a discourse of expression should not be and is not restricted to art. It can be discussed and brought to all walks of life and all disciplines. There is a creativity in science, there is a creativity, so discourse can be expanded further. So it's more about democratizing the notion of expression or creative expression. So I presented some ideas and I created actual grocery store in Manchester to demonstrate the possibility of a business grocery store being a vehicle of my creative expression, whatever I want to say about consumerism, rather than making a digital print or screen print like Andy Warhol. I actually created a business which was a actual running business. Next. Minus store. This was run for a 3 weeks period as a concept proof. Next. There are more details to it which I can't share right now. Next. But the way the store functions, the audience very much get to know the things about consumerism which they might not think about when they're looking at art. Next. This is not my work. This is Damien Hirst. Next. So there are more ideas for new social media platform, a micro city chain of DIY micro cities in the world globally. So I presented these ideas. Let's see who has interest to carry them forward. And because a lot of my time goes towards academia and curation besides my art practice. Next. Yes. Next. करते रहें. आखिरी slide पे ले जाएं. Text वाली slide है. Oftentimes, please, you want to say something?
No. I was just saying that with all of that, you're actually going to put a lot of people out of business because you've reimagined advertising. So, But let's kind of talk about forms of production, as the part 3 that we wanted to talk about, because you wear multiple hats. You are an educator, you're a curator, you're an artist. How does this all connect, and how do you make sense of it in the current world environment?
I work 13, 14 hours. But I give time to academia, art academia, being an educator, so curriculum making. And I curate exhibitions, which is exhibition making. And I'm an artist, which is art making. So I very recently realized that there's no conflict there. These are all forms of production and forms of making. And what connects all three forms of making that I engage with is one idea. It is my belief in the non-prescriptive and unfixed ideas of identity. If I may share a thought with you, and then maybe we can conclude, because I'm being shown flashcards. Next, 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 next. So this is, I can sum up my belief system, my worldview, which runs across all kind of practices I engage with, whether it's my art making or exhibition making or curriculum making. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Rashid, for this tour de force. Sadly, we are out of time, but Rashid is around. So if you want to ask him any questions, you can come up and ask him. There is, of course, this great exhibition that Rashid has curated. Which is
along
right
with my
next door.
colleagues Risham Sayyed and Walid Zafar, and it's a teamwork.
Under your guidance.
It is next door, everyone, and you must see this exhibition.
Yes. So please do go see it. And I hope that this artist talk today, and we had curated this in this manner so that people understand that art is an ever-evolving process, and that Rashid's role in actually creating new forms of art, new forms of ideas, and pushing boundaries is really important. And then, as Rashid said, very, very importantly, nothing is fixed. I think that's the key takeaway here. Nothing is fixed. Everything changes, can change, and will continue to actually change. So thank you, Rashid, so much for this. And thank you to the SOT team and ThinkFest for organizing this. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. You've been a great audience. Thank you.